There's a big mistake that many Muslims make when they first start thinking about Islam politically, which is that they try to fit Islam within a one-dimensional left-right-wing axis or a two-dimensional political compass. Or they might be thinking about, well, Islam, is it more capitalist? Is it more communist? Is it more right-wing? Is it more left-wing? Can we say that Islam is authoritarian versus libertarian? And the fundamental error, I would say, is two things. The first is that whenever you start to speak about the political language of our time, whenever you start to speak using the political language of our time and these ideologies, you're speaking within a given Overton window. Each society has not one idea, but a set of ideas that are acceptable for discourse, that the Republicans and the Democrats debate, and maybe slightly outside of that narrow spectrum, there's maybe like a windowsill of like the extreme left wing, like the anarchists and the communists and the socialists, and the extreme right wing, like, the ethno-nationalists and so on. But even then, Islam cannot be accommodated within this dialectic. And the reason is that you have to understand that Western ideology, civilization, politics has evolved along a specific course since the European Enlightenment. Even before the European Enlightenment, Western politics is informed by an experience with the Catholic Church, Christianity, the divine right of kings, and a lot of what came after is reaction. So, the evolution of a society's politics, when it doesn't have a solid, you can say, unchanging ideological basis like Islam does, it's evolving, it's experimental, it's reaction and counter-reaction, and you end up with what we have today. And my point was that Western society has been evolving along a secular path for like 400 years now. So Islam, which is inherently anti-secular, in fact, Islam, which is so diametrically opposed to the secularism that we have today, that many Muslims, they fail to understand Islam because they're speaking the language of 21st century Western politics, of 21st century Western morality and worldviews. The modern Muslim is in many ways more modern than he is Muslim. So in order for us to really, explain Islam to a Muslim, it's not an easy task. Even to those who profess the faith and practice the faith, they still call it the faith. And faith is a Christian terminology which has a specific, you can say, private secular connotation, because you talk to a Christian, he tells you just got to have faith. Why do you believe in Christianity? Well, you got to have faith in God, believe in God, go to the Bible, and you'll be guided. That's their attitude, that's their approach, which is not Islamic. Islam tells you to use your head. The people who listen to all speech, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and follow the best of it. So back to like trying to fit Islam into a political spectrum, you can't do it. It's not, so this is the first problem, is that Islam cannot be fit into the Overton window that we have today. And anytime you try to use modern ideologies to try to compare and contrast Islam with, the failure mode that you'll have is that Islam being so different, you're not giving justice to the level of difference Islam has with these ideologies at the foundational level. And this is the second issue. The second issue is that when you evaluate an ideology, you don't just evaluate some of its consequences or some of its rules. For example, people will compare and contrast Islam with capitalism, and they'll say Islam allows for land ownership and capitalism allows for land ownership. So Islam and capitalism are similar when it comes to land ownership. And the problem with speaking this way is, regardless of the similarity of Islam with another system on a specific legal issue, systems are not just an arbitrary set of laws. Islam is not an arbitrary set of laws. Capitalism is not an arbitrary set of laws. Communism is not. Fascism is not. These are ideologies with concrete worldviews. And if you want to compare ideologies, you must compare the worldviews first and fundamentally. You know, because you look at the way that Islam sees the world and you look at the way that capitalism sees the world, and they're completely different. The legal systems of capitalism and the legal systems of Islam emanate from their worldviews. Capitalism, which sees that the freedom of man is the most paramount value in society. The freedom of man is sacred and should not be violated. Rather, the role of the government is to uphold the freedom of man. That is the pinnacle value of society, and then all of their law kind of emanates from that. Whereas in Islam, of course, the pinnacle value is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we, His creation, exist to uphold the natural order that He set into the universe. Right, this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He established upon this earth a caretaker, Adam alayhi salam, when He was speaking to the angels. This is at Surah Baqarah, ayah 30. And to do that, and to keep the world in its proper order, and to keep the justice there between the human beings, there's only one way to do that. And it's through the system of God. It's through the divine law of God. So the ultimate value for us is in serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we return our will back to God, this is what Islam ultimately values, which is different than an ultimate value of freedom for capitalism, and an ultimate value of equality of outcome when it comes to communism and resolving the differences between people that God created. So when you look at things from an aqeedah point of view, aqeedah means worldview. Unfortunately, because of how much you can say poisonous discourse on the branch issues of aqeedah, people have associated this word aqeedah with like branch metaphysical discussions, these issues between, for example, the Atharis and the Ash'aris and the Maturidis and the Salafis and whatnot. Whereas really aqeedah means the worldview, the creed, the basic ideology of a Muslim. The lens that he has over the world. Is this entity, is this person, is this society, is it existing in the manner that God has ordained for it to exist? In the manner that God has specified for it to exist? Or is it existing in some other way in rebellion to the manner that God insists that things exist? And in such rebellion, only corruption, injustice, poverty, war, famine occur. So you can't call yourself a right-wing Muslim. You can't call yourself a conservative Muslim, right? I think conservatism has become very popular as a reaction to liberalism, because liberalism has been kind of on top between that left-right dichotomy in America and in the West in general for some time now. So right now we saw like Trump's landslide victory. We saw like, wokeism is starting to end, and there are signs of that. Conservatives are really taking the reins. And many Muslims, because again, they see some resonances in conservatism. They see some like, okay, look, they agree with us on family values, the whole trad wife stuff. There's this kind of traditional lifestyle that they seek to revive. So, okay, there's some equality here, there's some resonance. But again, you cannot evaluate ideologies on the basis of some consequential resonance. You must look at things at their base level, at the foundational worldview level. What are the beliefs of a conservative? How does a conservative view the world? You have to remember that conservatism is really like a school within classical liberalism as an Enlightenment philosophy. So how the conservatives and the left differ is not that significant. They ultimately both believe in secularism. They ultimately both believe in the personal liberties of man being paramount. They just have slightly different ways of reaching that. And in practice, conservatism is really the liberalism of 50 years ago. They just kind of keep moving like this. I hope I'm doing it in the right direction. But they just, one lags behind the other. And but many Muslims see like this becomes a problem for some Muslims because they want to be part of the scene. They want to be part of the conversation. And because Islam doesn't fit on the Overton window, there's nowhere for them to come in and like join the conversation. Because, there's on every issue, there's two takes, and neither take is anywhere near the Islamic take. So, to be a commentator, to be kind of like someone who's politically plugged in, it's very difficult as a Muslim because you have to come and really look at the issue from a completely unique perspective. And if you don't know much about the Islamic worldview, you're not going to be able to, put the pin on like, okay, what does Islam say about this issue and what take do I take? And human beings, of course, we always want to jump on a bandwagon. We always want to find our ideological allies, in the world. And this is where I would say Muslim leaders have big gaps, have failed to kind of create an Islamic political awareness and leadership, so that Muslims who care about the world, Muslims who want to make the world a better place, they would actually find Muslim activists who come from a Muslim worldview to try to affect change on a Muslim level, on the basis of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Right? This is not just like a ritualistic belief. This is not just an arbitrary list of rules for you to follow in your personal life. No. This is a revolutionary statement that seeks to transform the reality of human existence in every single which way: economic, political, social, spiritual. So once Muslims understand that, once Muslims create the mechanisms for us to start creating change in public opinion, and for us to start organizing for an Islamic political revival, then we'll capture those Muslims who have something great about them. They have something great about them. They want to change the world. They're politically astute. They understand that politics and power are the ways that you can affect great change. And that's absolutely correct. But, as of now, they feel forced to jump on non-Islamic activist causes, be it right-wing, be it left-wing, be it environmentalist, be it conservative, be it, what else is there? Like all these socialists, lots of Muslim socialists, unfortunately, or nationalist, right? But because, people are so afraid of Islamic politics, people have been so propagandized against it, people have not been able to set a direction forward for the Muslim community to really revive its homeland, to really reunite the Muslimin and reestablish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws. This is what we need. We need to bring together all the Muslims who really have it in their hearts to understand Islam comprehensively. And really, I think most people I've ever had a conversation with, there's no resistance to this idea. People want to understand Islam comprehensively. The only issue is basically the old guard. The only issue that I run into when I get somebody to really get it, the Islamic worldview is about everything. They always tell me, oh, my sheikh said this, or my scholar said this, or who are the scholars talking like this, akhi? And I made a video about this, of scholars and sultans. You can look it on my channel. But the short version is that lots of you can say bad faith entities, lots of actors seek to water down, sugarcoat the Islamic message, and keep the Muslims docile and accepting of the secular status quo. And that's the kind of message that we need to counter-signal. So I'll end with that. You as a Muslim, take pride. Your ideology is Islam. Your politics are Islam. The way that you seek to change the world is on an Islamic basis. Your motivation to change the world is in service to God, the Creator. And you want to make that Creator be taken as king by all peoples on this earth. And when you speak about it like that, there's some oomph to that idea. There's some oomph that is really untapped. And I just want to create this channel to tap into that oomph. You know, we can put that in the channel bio. Just tap into the oomph of God's kingship and the power of that idea. And I really think that that idea is, people are realizing more and more these days, the failure of secularism to create peace, prosperity for all, and the need to bring the Creator back into the picture and take him as our only king, our only sovereign, our only legislator. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.